Uh, um, well, I talked to, well, first of all, you touched on big subjects. I personally think that if Xac Ganhuyag was the chairman of the DP from the beginning, maybe we would have been in a very different place today. And frankly, I don't think, we had to go through such a very hard and painful journey on OT. This 3 year standoff, was totally not worth it. But these are things in the past, I would say. And it's what's although I agree with you that learning lessons is extremely important. At the same time, I'm trying to look ahead, what's going to happen ahead. And I talk to the people on the street, like in taxis, whatever, all the time, and I feel that they're not very happy with current authorities. That it didn't work out well for them. They're still complaining of hard life that they're having. But strangely, at the same time, they're very few. I just met only today like one person who was quite supportive of the MPP, and a lot of people, they are just thinking, they don't trust either party, and they're sort of thinking, what can I do? Everyone is sort of stealing, but I'm an ordinary person. I just have a very hard, tough, simple life, and maybe I should try the third parties, the independents, and I saw the party lists, the party candidates lists, preliminary ones, I guess, the ones that media circulating, they're not official. However, I didn't see any very, prominent, advocates for investment and rational, reasonable policies, like yourself. And so, do you think? I like the party's campaign. It talks a lot about economy, but do you think the MPP can really get down to it and just explain in very simple terms, can convince the electorate that they are the ones to lead the country out of this crisis?
Well, I think there's no question that MPP will be a better choice, because at least they have internal democracy, and they have the ability to pursue a goal as a group, which lacks in Democratic Party.
So they have discipline.
Because they so it's,
do they have discipline?
They balance. I think it's a fine balance, but as I said, they have on one hand internal democracy.
Do they have factions?
They have factions, but they fight it off internal, and then once they arrive at the decision, they're able to pursue that decision as one team.
The Democratic Party always says that. No?
Well, in Democratic...
They say the same thing.
Well, you saw what happened in the last 4 years, and the previous 4 years. MPP Chairman Bayar handed over peacefully his title of the Prime Minister to Batbol. Xac Ganhuyag is still bitter that he was made to give his position, although the country would have suffocated with him if he stayed there until now. Because I'm sure without Xac Ganhuyag, OT wouldn't be here in the situation that we have today, if Xac Ganhuyag stayed in the office. Then you saw a standoff between Prime Minister, a very public display of disagreement with Xac Ganhuyag and Enkbol. And the mere fact that Enkbol is the party chair and is not heading up the executive branch of the government is the fact that they are all about internal politics and sharing of power and balancing act on part of Democratic Party. So one of their leaders can say, let us pursue TT railway. The other one will immediately go public and say, no, I'm stronger than you. It's not going to happen. I don't see clarity of policy towards economy, business, foreign investment, mining, on the side of Democratic Party. On the side of MPP, I know that we were the driving force behind OT signing. I know that Batpol, he himself as an individual, handed over Town Togo to Mongolian people, was given back 6% or 5% of the mine as a compensation for all the expenses that private entities which formed the consortium received, because the government didn't have cash to compensate them. They received 5% of the mine, and that's where MCS was able to take over the project and listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. I've never seen an MPP leader who openly attacks private businesses from the podium. And you saw how happy was Enkbold with the announcement that MMC is in the process of renegotiating their debts, which have gone past due, largely because of his party's faults. Because we had that agreement to sell coal to China with Chalco for $75, and it was highly politicized, and it was because of the political undue influence, the contract was breached and Chalco walked away from the deal. And now we are not able to sell it for $20.
So if MPP wins or gets a plurality or a majority, and if it will lead the government, do you think MPP has learned lessons from all these bubbles bursting and from this resource nationalism, and will continue be a responsible partner for foreign direct investment in OT and TT and other major projects?
I definitely hope so, and as I said, the MPP has internal democracy, and it has checks and balances, which make sure that we're not dependent on one of the bosses' mood. So if one of our current leaders decides to do something crazy, like we saw throughout last 4 years on the Democratic Party side, on MPP side, that these things do not fly. There is a check and balance mechanism, and you saw that in 2004-2008 period.
By the way, I still think that during MPP government, first of all, one big mistake was to privatize TT. I think to expropriate TT. That was a big mistake, I think. Secondly, I think canceling the railway permits was a mistake for Bayar's government. And thirdly, I think
who served on that government as a transportation minister.
And also, I think that the proceeding with TTIPO should have been pulled off during the MPP-led government.
So if you look at all the facts clearly, MPP tried to sacrifice smaller eggs to save the bigger egg, which was the OT. So if you look at the circumstances surrounding all the issues that you just mentioned, who was asking the government to take back TT into government hands, and who gave in to whose pressure? I remember MCS guys signing a Deutsche Bahn agreement and Bayer standing behind them in Germany. Who financed the movies that led to public outcry about dangers of a railroad to China?
Yeah, I remember that.
And so we have tried to stay the course and at least save the most important eggs in our basket, sacrificing the smaller ones in order to keep the government intact as a coalition.
I see.
Because Bayer's vision was that we needed that coalition. And do you remember who ditched us in the last
6 months.
6 months?
Yeah, I remember.
Before the elections, when they felt absolutely sure that public sentiment was not going in the right way for the government, because they were giving out cash and they were... Who's the author of the cash handouts? And who tries to make the balance install the balance.
Yeah, I remember.
When
I remember this
policy
race.
gets too leftist or too goes all the way to the extreme right.
So let's imagine MPP, wins the election, forms the government. Do you think the party will proceed with whenever there is parties changing hands, there is a big cleanups, restructurings of the government. So all the people who are belong to this party, they're all fired. Do you think same will happen after these elections, if